Hey, what's up guys? This is Marseille, the property pastor here with Kingdom Legacy Builders, and I want to thank you for tuning into today's video. And today I want to talk a little bit about how much should you charge for your rooms in your rooming houses. Now, I get this question a lot from different people who have decided to kind of make that leap into renting out rooms either in their own home or setting up a rooming house as a business. And one of the tricky parts that people run into is how much should I actually charge? Now, before I get into it, make sure you smash that subscribe button to get tuned in to great content that we're dropping every single week. Now, you may be running into the question because you're concerned about charging way too much and nobody being interested in your room, or if you're charging too little and missing out on profit. So today I want to talk to you about determining the market rent that your particular room in your particular property will be able to get you. Now, market rent is basically what your market was willing to pay for the type of room and the type of property with the amenities that property offers. So let's go ahead and look at some of those factors so that you can figure out just how much you ought to charge for your rooms. Now, as you look at your particular room, you want to pull what we call comparable rents or comps. Now, that's a similar term that's used throughout real estate. Real estate agents, they pull comps, appraisers, they pull comps. So we want to do the exact same thing as investors. So if you have a particular room, you want to look elsewhere throughout your market for similarly sized properties, similarly sized rooms, and similar amenities so that you can determine what your market rent actually should be. So what you're going to do is look in your specific zip code for similarly sized houses, similarly sized rooms, and similar amenities. You want to be looking for things like, does that property have a washer dryer? Is there central heating and air? Do they have a Wi-Fi? Are they offering cable? Is the room itself furnished? You want to look at the fact of the number of bedrooms, the particular square footage, whether or not that particular house has on-street parking, what kind of parking you may get, be it on the street, off street, or no parking at all. And then you want to look at the size of the actual room. What is the square footage? Does it have a closet? How many bathrooms are shared by each tenant? If you have one bathroom that's being shared by 3 other people, then that's going to definitely knock the market rent down. But let's say, for example, on that particular floor in the house, if a tenant has a bathroom all to themselves, you can probably bump the rent up. So when you're looking for these things, you want to search online. You want to take a look at things like Facebook Marketplace. You want to look at sites like roommates.com. You may even want to consider Craigslist to look for similar type rooms to look at these types of features. And then on top of that, if you are driving around and you see a for rent sign, you can always call around and ask landlords what they're charging for their specific rents. Now, once you gather all of this information, you want to sit down and determine exactly how much a room of your size with those specific amenities will charge in your particular market. So in order to help you figure out exactly how much you should charge, we've put together a planning tool that you can download and use to determine the market rent for yourself. So that link will be in the description of this video. Make sure you check that out also. Now, when it comes to actually pricing, this is not an exact science, but we want to get a ballpark of what comparable rents should be. So typically what I do and what I recommend that you do is you go ahead and set that rent based on comparables, based on what the market will sustain. You go ahead and begin to advertise what that price should be. Let's say, for example, that you're offering Wi-Fi and you have a furnished room. And some rooms in your area may be going for $500 a month. But because you've got more features, you've got more amenities, people are typically willing to pay more for that. So if a tenant knows you have a washer dryer unit on site and they don't have to haul their clothes all the way down to the laundromat, guess what? They're typically willing to pay anywhere from $20 to $25 more per month. You add Wi-Fi, you can boost even more money. And on top of that, if you have a furnished room, you can add even more to it. So it really just depends on the types of features and amenities that you actually have in your unit. Now, when it comes to the location, if you're in a desirable location, you can also charge more rent. If you're very close to a major employer where people don't even have to worry about parking, for example, you can charge more rent there. I do that in my market because we have a local shipyard where the parking is absolutely horrible. So I own houses that are within walking distance of the shipyard, and we actually rent rooms to some of the employees there. And guess what? They don't have to pay for parking. So they're willing to pay more for their rent just for the fact that they don't have to drive every day and pay like monthly fees for parking and have to fight all of this traffic and things of that nature. They can walk to and from work. So they're definitely willing to pay a premium in that example. But it all depends on what your market is willing to pay. So when it comes to actually listing your property, you want to set your target price and see how it does. So for example, if you are advertising your room on Facebook Marketplace, or you're putting out yard signs, newspaper advertisements, or things like that, in there, you're going to start with your base rent. And let's say, for example, you started at $550. Well, as you're doing that, if you're not getting any calls, or if you're getting calls and showings, you want to respond to what you're seeing. So if you do a showing and you see that people are kind of balking at the price, well, you may be a little bit overpriced. So I encourage you to ask questions. So as you do follow up with tenants and they say, well, I really couldn't afford, that $550. I was really only looking for about $515 based on what the property had. If you start to hear that same recurring theme over and over, you may want to consider dropping your price. Or if you find that your listing is not really getting a lot of traffic, you may want to list a price there. The wonderful part about technology is that you typically get that information gets broadcast to a lot of people. So as those people see that price point for the room, if it's attractive to them, guess what? They're going to reach out and they're going to want to see their property. So what I typically do is when I list a property, when I list one of my rooms, if it doesn't get a lot of traffic the first few weeks, I'll start dropping that price by about $10 every few weeks, and I wait to see what kind of traffic that I actually get. So I actually did that recently. I had a room for rent down by the local shipyard, and I had it priced about $750 a month. And it started to get some traffic, but not as much as I wanted. And over time, I decided to lower the rent. So I started lowering that rent, and in doing so, the traffic picked up drastically, and I was able to fill the property very quickly. Now you may be saying, well, Marseille, you're leaving money on the table. Why not hold out for that great tenant? Well, the reality of it is that when tenants stay for about a year, they typically don't want to leave. So what I do is if I lower the rent to get them into the unit, when it comes time for lease renewal, then I just increase it, because typically we already have it written in that you're going to have a 5% increase after the first year. So there's an understanding that rent is going to go up over time. So you will make that money back, but when you think about it, there's no value of you sitting idle for 6 months and losing lots of rent money, where that $10 or $15 a month that you lowered is not really going to make a difference in the long run. So I definitely encourage you to do that. As you list and you're not getting the type of traffic that you want, even though you've done your homework and you're not getting the type of traffic that you want, it's okay to lower that rent until you generate that traffic, until you generate that buzz, and you will get your property filled. Hey, in this next video, we're going to talk about how you actually advertise to find great tenants. So once you've determined how much you actually want to charge, now we're going to look at some of the ways that you can actually advertise that property and find those great tenants. Make sure you check it out.